Okay, let's talk about the glute max leg press. We're going to watch some reps and then we will talk about it. Okay, let's talk about the most important thing here is the foot position. How do we make this a glute biased leg press? We have our feet high on the platform, narrow on the platform, and we have our feet more or less pointed straight forward. And so I have a little bit of external rotation here, which I'm okay with, not too much. And so your feet are high, they are narrow, and they are pointed straight up. Next, we're going to want this back rest put all the way down. Now, what that's going to do for contrast is if you put it all the way up, you're going to be in so much hip flexion to start the movement, a lot of range of motion. A lot of your range of motion is going to be limited. A lot of people's range of motion in this exercise will be limited. That's one of the reasons we don't really love the vertical leg press, the one where you're laying on the ground, because it forces you into so much hip flexion it becomes not the best for glutes, let's say. So, quick recap. We're going to want our feet high on the platform, narrow, about hip width, and toes relatively pointed straight up, not too much external rotation, and the backrest put all the way down. Now, when you put the backrest all the way down, if you're not exactly vertically gifted, you might have a difficult time setting your feet into this high position. So what I recommend you do is one of two things. Either just kind of tiptoe your way up to this position, unlock the weight, and then walk your feet up into this position and get started, which I've seen people do for many years, and it's totally safe. You can do it, just take your time. Or most leg presses will actually have a safety about halfway down where you can rack the weight actually in a lower position. And so check on that, because if you're short and you're putting this backrest all the way down, you might be like, oh my God, I can't reach, where Jordan's feet are right now. So you'll either click or unrack the weight down here and walk your feet up, or you can opt to rack the platform here at a little bit lower, about halfway down. I strongly recommend trying both of those, seeing which one you feel most comfortable with. If you can rack it at halfway and that's really easy, that's going to be awesome, because you'll be able to kind of set your feet here before you get into the movement. Now, as far as how low you should go and how do you know if your feet are high enough, etc., let's look at my bottom position, which is right here. And so if you wanted to bring this platform down as low as possible, you would not use this foot position. So what I'm trying to say is that this is not going to be the most range of motion, quote unquote, in the sense of the platform coming down. If you wanted to bring this platform lower, you would use a wider foot position, more external rotation, you would let your knees come outside your chest, and you could bring this lower. Okay, you would bring it lower, but it would be worse for glutes. And so when we're trying to work the glutes, what we're going to run into is our knees running into our chest. That's okay. That is totally fine. If your knees are not running to your chest and they're going outside your chest, chances are your feet are too wide and too externally rotated, and you're letting your knees go outside your chest, and you're bringing in more adductor than we want. Now, that's not a bad thing, but we're trying to bias the glutes here. So let's keep the toes, the feet close together, narrow at the high end of the platform. Now, when we're assessing if your feet are high enough or too high, if you look at my knee angle right here, how much knee flexion I have, about 90 degrees of knee flexion. And this is about the smallest angle I will want you to have. And so if your bottom position looks like it's about 90 degrees of knee flexion, that's good. If you want, you can experiment from here by bringing your feet a little bit higher. What I will say is that there is such a thing as too high. If you bring your feet too high, you're going to lose some of the quad's ability to contribute to knee stability, and you'll actually be a whole lot weaker and glute output goes down. And so higher is better to a point, and then eventually it's not. And so if you're stuck at this point right now and you're thinking, okay, I have 90 degrees of knee flexion here, you can try inching your feet up another inch and seeing how that goes. When I say see how that goes, I mean see if you're able to get the glutes to be the thing that gets taken closer to failure. Now, what I will also say is the quads will also work. The quads are not doing nothing. This is not a zero quad exercise. So if you feel it in your quads to some degree, that's okay. Let's make sure that your setup is correct first before worrying about necessarily where we're feeling it. That's something that we can work on afterwards. So if you're feeling in your quads, it's kind of normal, but you can send a form video and we can talk about maybe putting your feet a little bit higher, which will bring the quads out of it a little bit more. But again, feet higher only until a point. At some point, it becomes counterproductive as well. And so I'd say 90 degrees of knee flexion or feet higher than that. So this would be like the most, like from 90 degrees and up would be where I'd want to see you guys. If it's smaller than 90 degrees, that means your foot is probably too low on the platform, and we're going to be making this more quad biased. I want it to be more glute biased, which means at most here, we're going to want this 90 degree knee flexion here. All right? Send some form videos. We'll talk about it.